and welcome to WellSprings. If you're joining us here in Bell Hall, please come on in and find a seat. My name is Julie. My pronouns are she and her. I also want to welcome all of our YouTube friends and family that are watching from home or on the road somewhere. We're going to start with music as always, so please rise, whether in body or in spirit, and sing along to this first song.
Everybody wants to live how they want to live. Everybody wants to love like they want to love. Everybody wants to be closer to free. Everybody wants respect, just a little bit. Everybody needs a chance once in a while. Everybody wants to be closer to free. Everybody one, everybody two, everybody three. Everybody needs to touch, now and then. Everybody wants a good friend. Everybody wants to be closer to free. Everybody one, everybody two, everybody three. Everybody wants to live how they want to live. Everybody wants to love how they want to love. Everybody wants to be closer to free. Closer to free. Closer to free.
You can take a seat for this next song. Andrew will lead us in The Climb.
I can almost see it, that dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost with no direction. My faith is shaken, but I gotta keep trying, gotta keep my head held high. There's always gonna be another mountain, always gonna wanna make it move, always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there, ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb. The struggles I'm facing, the chances I'm taking, sometimes might knock me down, but no, I'm not breaking. I may not know it, but these are the moments that I'm gonna remember most. Just gotta keep going, and I gotta be strong. Just keep pushing on. 'Cause it's always gonna be another mountain, always gonna wanna make it move, always gonna be an
Please rise and join us, at least with the E-oohs, if you don't know anything else.
Well, child is hungry.
You,
You're fed.
you,
If he falls sick down,
you,
wanna have a hospital bed.
you,
A man needs the power
you,
if he's willing and able.
you,
So it don't take a miracle
you,
to put some food on the table.
you.
Am I asking too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Asking too much?
That ain't asking too
Am I asking
much.
too much?
That ain't asking too
Asking
much.
too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Take my son, shoot him off to Iraq.
You,
Am I asking too much? To know when he's coming back.
you,
If he comes back home,
you,
alive and well,
you,
can you give him something better
you,
other than drugs to sell?
you.
Am I asking too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Too much?
That ain't asking too
Am I
much.
asking too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Now they say that we
You,
living in impossible times.
you,
Someone's counting millions,
you,
someone's counting nickels and dimes.
you,
Well, I work all day
you,
and try to live right.
you,
Am I asking too much now?
you,
A little before I die.
you.
Am I asking too much?
That ain't asking too much.
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 Too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Asking too much?
That ain't asking too much.
Thank you, guys. Welcome to WellSprings here in Bell Hall and anybody who's watching online. To all that are here, I'm so glad that we are able to gather either in person or online, that we can put our hearts and our spirits together this morning. My name is Kathleen Higgins. My pronouns are she and her. I have a reminder that I should always put my pronouns in. And I'm honored and blessed to be leading our worship service today. And so wherever you are this morning physically, or wherever you are this morning spiritually, we feel your presence here with us. And are glad that we're gathered here in spirit. You know, each week when we gather, we light a chalice, and that is in honor and recognition of our spiritual lives and the recognition of our heritage as Unitarian Universalists. But it's not just a history, it's what we're talking about, that divine spark that's inside of us each day when we bring it here and when we take it out with us. So I would like to invite my spousal unit. This would be Pete Higgins, if he would light the chalice this morning. And then after he does so, we'll share the words on the screen together. Thank you. And together we say, we light this chalice to celebrate the path lit before us, the warmth of kindness that shines from within us, and the radiance of wisdom that is shared between us and never goes out. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Our mission here at WellSprings is to be a community charged full with the charge of the soul. And so as a worship leader, each of us take a look at what is the charge that we want to share with people each Sunday morning. It could be anything we're struggling with, it could be something we're celebrating, it could be whatever just comes to us as something that we want to offer to the community. I often do speak of both sorrow and joy that will be in each life, maybe in each moment. And this morning, I wanted to speak of some of the joy. I've got a show and tell, right? A little bit different. So this is a gladiolus, and they start out about like this. And they grow like this until about last week. And they grow and they grow and they grow, and they're about this tall, and they're not doing anything. And you go, okay, I put the little bulbs in the ground, and I've got a lot of grass. But then they do begin to show that bright color. In this case, they come in different colors, like yellow and stuff, but this is a red one. And the reason that I want to kind of bring this to our attention is an analogy that this little creature, which was put in the ground as a bulb and then took advantage of where it was living in the water that fell, is an analogy for each of us who start, however we do, like we're a little blade. We got babies here with us, and the little ones are here with us, and some of the older ones are here with us. Eventually, they begin to show their color. Whatever their true color might be and should be, it could be a yellow one, could be a red one, whatever it is. And then, hopefully, as they bloom and become adults, they become whatever they're designed to be, but it becomes hopefully magnificent. And so the part I want to suggest for us this morning is that let's be thrilled with all the babies we got, and all the toddlers we got, and all the youth spirit people we have, and let's appreciate everyone that we know, whatever age they are, whatever they're going through, whatever they're coping with, whatever their triumphs or their sorrows or their joys are. That we consider each of us beautiful in our own way, and that spiritually, I'm going to suggest that each day we find something beautiful to look at. Whether we're struggling, whether we're in sorrow, whether we're not sure what's going to happen next, find something beautiful to look at. Pause and just be aware of the beauty and let it soothe you and inspire you, whatever you need to have and be that day. So that's my wish for us, that may we all find something beautiful to soothe and inspire us. So this morning, I want to continue by saying welcome to any newcomers. If this is your first, second, third time, whichever, if you're still considering yourself a newcomer, and joining. We're glad that you're here and here. And we hope you want to fill out a connection card. We've got them here. Also, they're online, so you can learn more about us and let us know more about you too as well. So there is online, there's a link in the video description, which would probably be appearing below me. And if you want to interact with others while we're here, you can actually join us online. There's a live chat that's available for those who are looking through the screen, and you need a YouTube or a Google account, and anyone here can do the same thing. And they just sign in, YouTube or Google, and then click the live chat button, say hello, and Jessica will be seeing that you have signed in and be able to respond to you. So we do have a few announcements also to share this weekend, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, who is our Membership and Communications Coordinator, Jessica Heichel.
Hi WellSprings, my name is Jessica Heichel with your announcements for this week. Up first, we have a new Soul Bite offering. This is a one-time small group, and the topic of discussion is going to be kind of taking a second to reflect and try to make sense of the changes that happened in the pandemic that we've all just lived through. If you are interested in attending this, there are two different opportunities to do so. One is in person, and the other is a virtual session on Zoom. Now there's a little bit of a quick turnaround because the in-person session is actually happening tomorrow. So if you are interested in that, there are links to RSVP in today's order of service. The virtual session will be happening on August 1st, if that's a little too quick of a turnaround for you. If you would like to attend either session, be sure that you hit that RSVP link to reserve your spot. Second announcement, families with children that are 17 and younger should have received an email from Miss Carol, our Youth Spirit Director, sort of just inviting you into a conversation about youth spirit. So check your inboxes, see if that came to you, and of course you're always welcome to reach out to Carol directly. I will put her email right here. And that is for hopefully like a 20 to 30 minute conversation she's looking to have with families to figure out how we can make youth spirit better for this coming year, church year. Third announcement, Reverend Lee is on study leave, so there is some information in today's order of service about how you can reach out to the office for help with things and how you can receive pastoral care while she is away. That's all for this week. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jessica. At WellSprings, the foundation of all we do is that power of connection, of making space for each other in our heart and in our lives. And this is the part of the service where we honor that connection. We're going to greet one another. And for those of us who are sharing with us virtually, you might take a moment to do a greeting in the live chat, or maybe on WellSprings Oasis, which is our private group on Facebook that we're all welcome in, or just reach out, text message, or a note to somebody else you're thinking of in this community or outward in your life. As we greet one another right here, please remember to ask before you hug, like I'm a hugger, or approach too closely. If you want to just stay away from people for whatever reason, just stay seated. We will be glad to wave to you from afar. So whatever way that you intend to greet, let's do so now. Greetings. Thank you so much for your warm greetings. Thank you this morning for your warm greetings. I know that we're glad to see each other, and I appreciate that. Also now, I'm going to invite you into our time of generosity, and that's an opportunity to express our gratitude for the way WellSprings impacts our lives and the lives of others. I should say that the room is nice and cool for everyone comfortable but me, because unfortunately, from time to time, I roast in my own hide. So if you care about the community, if it's helped you through times, sometimes have felt impossible over the last several years, we hope you'll honor what this place means in your lives by sharing a gift with us. Our greeters are going to pass the hats, and if you want to put something in that virtual hat, just text WellSprings to 73256, and a link will pop up so you can make a gift online. There's also an online gift link, to our gift giving form in the video description that would appear right below here. Thank you all, for the ways your gifts of time and energy and funds and kindness and attention and care that all support our WellSprings community and the community beyond us and our partners beyond our doors. So our offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you. Thank you. So, having shared energy between us and giving beyond us, let's take some time now to reground into that deep and soulful energy that's within. We do this by doing what's most simple and elemental in our lives. We take a breath, inhaling and exhaling without rush or hurry, breathing in and breathing out. There's nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be, so let's be here together now. As we prepare for our time of mindful silence, we follow these words from Thich Nhat Hanh into our time of meditation. If we want to enter heaven on earth, we need only one conscious step and one conscious breath. Let us cultivate peace and experience presence in this quiet time together. wherever it is that we are, whatever it is that we're doing, and however it is that we're feeling. Let us remember that peace and presence are always as close to us as it is our own breath. May this be so for you in this moment. May it be so for you this day. May it be so for you in the days to come. And may it be so for all of us. As the band comes up for our next song, the young ones can join Miss Carol at the back of the hall for their time in Youth Spirit. And we always do an amusing little reminder that the children will be there for you to pick up later.
Does it fall from skies above? Is it underneath a willow tree that I've been dreaming of? Where is she? Who I close my eyes to see. Will I ever know the sweet hello that's meant for only me? Who can say where she may hide? Must I travel far and wide till I am beside the someone who I can mean something to? Where is love? Every night I kneel and pray, let tomorrow be the day when I see the face of someone who I can mean something to. Where is love?
Where is love indeed? A question asked by a lot of people in the early part of the 1800s, in the throes of the Industrial Revolution. This is Robert Blanco. He was born in 1792, but by 1796, he was an orphan living in St. Pancras Workhouse in London. His parents are unknown. At age 6, he was sent to work as a chimney boy, cleaned out the chimneys. This always strikes me because when I think of children doing that kind of labor, because my dad often told me that at the age of 7, he would clean out the ashes in people's fireplaces and furnaces in the neighborhood. My dad started working when he was like earning money for the family at the age of about 7 years old. Robert was 6, and he started working at a chimney sweep, but he was soon returned back to the workhouse. In August 1799, at the age of 7, he was apprenticed as a mule scavenger. Now, a mule scavenger is someone who works in a mill, and they work underneath the cotton mill, and they pick up the scraps of cotton. It was a very dangerous, and if you can imagine how there were no regulations at the turn of the last century, or the turn of the previous century, the 1800s in England. Many people were injured, got hurt. It was a very dangerous job. But the kids were small, so that's why they had them do this work. According to his later memoir, he was one of 80 7-year-old children in St. Pancras Workhouse as a parish apprentice. Under the terms of their indentured service, they were supposed to be taught how to make hosiery for girls, lace, and it was going to be a thing that they would learn how to do, but that never happened. Blanco and the others lived in the dormitory, and the food consisted of porridge and black bread. And I was trying to find out if black bread was some kind of thing that was different than, like, I found all sorts of recipes for it, and it seems like it's a specialty food now, but I couldn't find, at least in my initial research, was black bread like moldy bread or something, but I can't imagine it was the thing I was finding these recipes for, and I'll explain why in a minute. They worked 14-hour days, 6 days a week. Blanco's first job was as a mule scavenger. The overseers beat the children on the slightest provocation, and Blanco later stated that he contemplated suicide many times. After finishing his apprenticeship in stock weaving, he eventually, surprisingly, founded his own waste cotton supply business in 1819. That's the year my house was built, which is interesting, for me anyway. He married a woman named Martha, and they had 3 children. He sold his waste cotton business and got into spinning cotton. In 1822, a journalist, John Brown, met Bianco and interviewed him for an article about child labor. Brown decided to write Blanco's biography and gave it to a social activist named Richard Carlisle in 1828. Carlisle decided to publish the tale in a newspaper, The Lion, for 5 weekly episodes, and then in The Advocate. The story exposed the poor conditions. In 1832, his memoir was published. Life in England during the Industrial Revolution was hard, and that's an understatement. Where at agricultural communities, people relied on each other in order to survive, but somehow in the harshness of the cities, where factories burned coal that belched black smoke into the sky, and there were no regulations, money was the great purifier, and children were labor. Children who didn't have parents, sadly, were disposable. And also technology was displacing all these workers, people who were working on farms. There was lots of uprisings and protests against the fact that machines were taking the place of the jobs that were available prior to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Now, England, London, wanting to have the impression, if you will, that they wanted to take care of people, started a thing called poor laws. And there were policies to deal with, manage, and control the poor. They date back to 1587, and they were enacted, as I said, to deal with the poor. These laws would determine who would pay and also who would be eligible. And by 1834, a new poor law was enacted, and it was, again, there was good intentions in creating these laws, but the way they were run, the only way you could take advantage of this support, and I could put that in quotes, that they were offering, was you had to go work and live in a workhouse. They popped up in every city, and the conditions, to put it mildly, were purposely harsh, cruel, and with limited food, because ultimately they didn't want you to stay there. If you were poor and you needed help, they didn't want you to go there. And the majority of the people that we find at this point in time are children who are orphaned. Photo number 2. Oliver Twist is first published in monthly installments between February 1837 and April 18th, 1839. To show the system's treatment of innocent orphans, it was created to help orphans, unmarried mothers, and they would go into the workhouse system, and there they would be taken care of. But they would also have to work, and it would be any job that they were given, they'd have to do. They were ill-treated, they were experiencing hunger, so bad that one child here in the story, as Dickens writes, was willing to eat another child if he wasn't fed better. Oliver has the temerity to ask for more food. Now, there was a little, the way Dickens writes this is he sets up a little game between the kids. Whoever draws the short straw has to go up and ask for more food. Oliver walks up, and as you can see in this illustration, he stands utterly alone with fearful threat of being punished. He asks, could he have some more? Of which he is then punished, and it's decided very soon that he's no longer going to be allowed to live at the workhouse. Next slide. Charles Dickens is born Charles John Huffman Dickens in February of 1812, and at the age of school, he left work and worked in a boot factory for a while. After 3 years, he returned to school, and before he began his literary career as a journalist, he was trying to make money to just survive because his father was put in debtor's prison. The poor laws that he saw in 1832 and the treatment of young people angered Dickens. And some say it's his own personal life as well as the life of Robert Blanco that got Dickens to write Oliver Twist. So, that brings me to our spirit flicks of today, the movie Oliver. In 1968, I was about 5 years old, and I think I've mentioned many times, at least twice a month, we as a family would go to the movies. And I remember very, very vividly from the age of being old enough to comprehend what was going on. We were going to see movies as a family. I remember one of my strangest double features was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Yellow Submarine. I loved Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Yellow Submarine scared me. The blue meanies freaked me out. It was like really crazy. And I was like, what is going on? This is so weird. Later I began, as an adult, I understood what was going on, and I began to I fell in love with the Beatles and all that, but that's a whole other talk. We went to see, I remember, all the musicals that were around at that time, and there was a string of them that seemed to be specifically for families and kids. There was, of course, Mary Poppins, which I was a little bit too young to see in the theater. That was 66, so it would have been 3. Of course, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, as I just said. Dr. Dolittle, which I absolutely loved the music in that, and of course, Oliver. I saw Oliver in the movie theater probably about 20 or 30 times. I was probably the most annoying kid to my parents and my grandparents and the neighbors on the little street. I lived at this point we lived in West Philly. It was an interesting time. I don't know how much I was aware of what was going on in the world. MLK was assassinated that year. RFK was assassinated earlier that year. Oliver comes out in the fall of '68, September. And I know that the other thing that was going on for me personally was my mom at the time, and I've talked about it many times, was suffering from some kind of depression or postpartum depression. My sister was born a few years earlier, and she wasn't present. So at a 5-year-old little young boy, I sort of had a whole year there where my mom was just not there. And I don't know, in looking back at Oliver, if that's what got me, or if it was that I was somehow aware of all the turmoil that was going on in the world. But I remember that movie just got inside of me and touched my soul. The story of this little kid who is asking the question, where is love? Where is this love that's supposed to be in the world? So Oliver, I'm sure most of you know, but it's the story of this kid here who is an orphan. And as I said earlier, he asks for more. He does the thing that you are not supposed to do. Next photo. This is Mr. and Mrs. Bumble. And they run the orphanage. And they try to project themselves as being good, decent people who are upstanding. In fact, one of the things Dickens does in telling of the story, he does this, is that the people who he thinks of as morally reprehensible, he makes them large. Because food is such a scarcity, he makes it so that they are definitely well fed. And the people who run the orphan board are all, there's a scene where you see them all sitting around a big table and they're just eating and being gluttonous. And the kids from the orphanage are looking in, wishing they had just a little bit of that food. And there's an interesting thing about how Mr. Bumble dresses. He has his hat is creased and his clothing is all pressed. And Dickens was trying to show that this is a man who respects order and I call him a true believer. But in his true belief, in both his faith and his country and the traditions, he is cruel. He is unbelievably cruel. And it is interesting, I think one of the cautionary tales or things that we can learn in Dickens' story is how we can have or believe that we are following these rules that are supposed to make us good people, that are supposed to teach us how to live a good life, and yet we can use those things to enact such horrible cruelty. So after Oliver asks for more, he's eventually sold to a funeral director, and he's in the basement of this funeral home, and that is where he sings the song that Andrea just sang. Thank you, Andrea, again for singing that. It was beautiful, and that song always gets me. Where is the love? Oliver's in a basement all alone, and there's just no one to love him, and he now is in this funeral home. Through a series of events, he escapes, he gets away, and he ends up in London, and he meets this guy. Oh, not him yet. Oh, I got them in wrong. Not him yet. Let's see. Go to the next. Keep going. No, keep going. Oh, wow, did I miss it? Keep going. Oh, no, I think I missed the slide. Okay, well, we can go back. He meets the Artful Dodger. The Artful Dodger is a young kid who meets Oliver on the streets and takes him in. And I think one of the things that's interesting about the Artful Dodger, one of the things we can learn from this, is the need and the importance of exactly what we have here at WellSprings, which is the importance of community, of connection. Oliver's all alone in the world, and the Artful Dodger, while he is a criminal, he entices Oliver to say, hey, come on with me. I want to introduce you to some friends of mine. We have a whole community where we look out for each other. We have a sense of rules we follow, but we take care of each other. And there's a guy who really helps us out with this, and I want you to meet him. And then we can go to the next slide, which they meet Fagin. So, in watching Oliver again to prepare for this, Fagin is so problematic and so challenging. Dickens, and I looked this up because I was trying to figure out even what to say about this. Fagin is probably one of the most anti-Semitic characters in British literature. Dickens, upon being asked about this, says that he was not held no ill will toward Jewish people, did not think of Jewish people as being bad, or he was not intending to do that, but he did say that the people that he met who were on the street, who were stealing, happened to be Jewish. That was his sort of way of trying to get out of it. Eventually, he went back and rewrote the end of Oliver to take out some of the references, and in his later writing, he tried to make an amends. But I think the key thing is there are two things that are really important, particularly since what's happening right now in America with the laws that were passed, the new ruling in Florida that was this week about how slavery is going to be taught. Two things I think that are very critical here. One is we have to leave the history be the history. Dickens, whether his intention or it was not to be innocent, but the result was. And we need that because we need to remember. We have to remember that there is cruelty in the world, and if we try and erase it from our history or erase it from our past, we will forget, and we are destined to repeat it again. And the other thing is, yes, it hurts. It is painful when it was almost embarrassing to me that I loved this film so much, or that the songs that Fagin sings are probably the catchiest songs in the film. Yet they have this. Yet they are horribly, horribly anti-Semitic and racist. One of the curious things I also started to research about is why so many people want to play this character. This character and also Shylock. There are two characters that are so horrible, yet actors love to play this role. And you can see the actor who plays Fagin in Oliver is just digging into this character so hard. I mean, the performance is a tour de force. And it's also that we know from Dickens' writing that he was trying to make fun of or mock or be sarcastic or point out how horrible conditions were. But that doesn't excuse the result of this particular character. But again, I really want to stress, I also believe that we need these characters left in our literature because it is important for us to remember that this way that we can talk about people can be cruel, and it can, as I said, it's painful, but it is a pain that I think is useful for us as we move forward to make the world a better place. So Fagin is a master thief, and he runs this group of kids, and he tries to bring Oliver in. Now, one of the things that Dickens does, and not that crazy about this, but he writes Oliver as being 100% pure, and no matter how much the kids try and get him to steal, he won't do it. He won't be the bad guy. I think that's a little unrealistic, but that is the case. So Oliver's now in with this crew. They send him out to go do a job. He doesn't do the job while he gets arrested, and he meets Mr. Barnlow, and Mr. Barnlow decides to bring him home, and now Fagin and his crew are worried that they're going to get turned in. Next slide. This is Nancy. She is a prostitute, and she is also the girlfriend of Bill Sykes, who we're going to meet in a second. And it's interesting, the things that you find out when you start trying to put a message together like this. Dickens was willing to put his beliefs, his money where his beliefs were. He opened a home for women who were on the street, and he funded it and actually partially ran it for a period of time, where he would the women who had worked on the street as prostitutes could come and learn to read and write. They'd learn skills. He'd help them get a job and help them enter back into quote unquote normal society. But Dickens he believed that there was a way of making space for people to redeem themselves or get better, or however you want to think about that. The next character that we meet is Bill Sykes, played by Oliver Reed, who just does a masterful job of playing this role. And Oliver Reed's character kind of represents what happens when the poverty and being poor are pushed to the limits. And he's the tragic figure. He's one of Fagin's first recruits. He's a grown-up now. He's a master thief, but he's also cruel and brutal. He's a mean guy, and he eventually kills Nancy. Because Nancy, whose heart is still open, sees the goodness in Oliver and wants to help him, help him get away from these people who are trying to corrupt him. And so we get to the end of the film where she makes a deal with Mr. Barlow to get Oliver out of this situation. Like so many of our teachers, Dickens is complicated. For a writer who made his reputation in crusading against squalor of the Industrial Revolution, he was also a capitalist. He used everything from this powerful new printing press to enhance advertising revenues to the expansion of railroads to sell more books. As a young man, Dickens expressed a distaste for certain aspects of organized religion. But surprisingly, to me, as I was doing this research, he's shown an interest in Unitarianism. And there is a streak you can see in all of his writing of Unitarianism in not only Oliver, but A Christmas Carol and Tale of Two Cities. There are a number of stories that you can see where you can see his sense of universal love and universality in his writing. So Oliver ends with a crowd of people chasing after Bill, and eventually he's killed. And Oliver is reunited with Mr. Barlow. Next slide. who he finds out is actually his grandfather. In perfect fairy tale, his daughter went out into the world, found herself with child in an orphan, gives birth to Oliver, dies. Oliver's left as an orphan. But something, when he sees him and goes, there's something about that kid that seems so familiar. And he does a minimal amount of research, it's really fascinating for the time, and discovers that Oliver is indeed his grandson, and Oliver gets to live with Mr. Barlow. And the last scene of the film, the very last scene of the film, is Fagin and the Artful Dodger meet on the street as the sun's coming up, and they have this discussion in song. I think we're going to go straight. We're going to change our whole way of being. It's such a wonderful song. I'm reviewing the situation. It's I love that song. I think I better think it out again, is the line. And as they sing this song, where you think for a second maybe they're going to go straight, they get a little twinkle in their eye, and they're going to go off into their life of crime again as they walk off into the sunrise over England. And there ends the film, Oliver. So I think the message that we take from this film are the spiritual message that we can find in this film are many. But the big one for me is that community and connection are so important, and that there's always going to be something that we have to fight against. There's always going to be some kind of darkness out there. And even if people seem to have good intentions, we got to be ruthless and determined and stick together to try and make our world a more welcoming and loving place. Amen. Will you pray with me? Spirit, God of our understanding, lead us and help us find a way to keep community and connection in our hearts, and that we may make a place for all the Olivers of the world. Amen.
Today.
Sometimes I lay under the moon and thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more, that we no more wars, and the children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. to be under the same song, singing songs of freedom like one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, 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 one
As we release this flame from its fateful service today, we give us to go on, our marvel ashen, to fire our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. And again, may we keep a space in our hearts for the Olivers of the world. And peace. Van? Let's do it.